Tonight's story isn't folklore. It isn't myth. It's what happens when an empty place doesn't stay empty because we never really left it, and it never really let us go. If you enjoy these midnight stories, hit subscribe, drop a comment with where you're listening from, and as always, keep the lights low, because tonight's story takes us somewhere you probably shouldn't go alone. This is St. Augustine Isn't Empty. It started with an email from City Infrastructure Office. Subject: St. Augustine Condition Survey. Attachment: floor plan PDF. It was short. No greeting, no sign-off. Just, the building will be demolished in 30 days. We need a basic walkthrough, footage of structural damage, and any footage of residual material left behind. A stipend has been issued. Entry code is included. Avoid sub-level access. I should have said no, but I needed the money. And maybe, somewhere in the back of my head, I wanted to go back. St. Augustine was the hospital where I shadowed during med school. Only for 3 weeks, but long enough to see too much. It shut down a year later. They blamed funding. Whispers said it was something darker. Doctors gone missing. Patients found dead in locked rooms. Hallways that didn't match the blueprints. I hadn't thought about it in years, until the email. I arrived Friday just before dusk. The parking lot was cracked, half swallowed by weeds. The building itself loomed 6 stories of concrete and mildew, with boarded windows and a crooked metal sign still clinging to the roof. St. Augustine Regional Care. I punched in the code at the side entrance. The door clicked. Inside, darkness. The kind that feels thick, personal. I flicked on my flashlight. Everything was still here. Desks, chairs, gurneys with shredded sheets, even a dry erase board by the nurse's station. Welcome, new day. It looked like someone wrote it yesterday. I filmed the front corridor. Paint peeling, ceiling sagging, rust-colored smears on the floor that might have been water. Might have been. But when I passed the pediatrics wing, my camera glitched. Just for a second. A quick white flash, a sharp audio spike. I rewound, frame by frame, and in one single image standing at the end of the hallway, I saw a silhouette. Thin, tall, head tilted. I laughed it off. Electrical interference. Visual noise. I kept moving. Every door I opened groaned, like it hated being touched. I passed surgical theaters, burn units, long-forgotten psych rooms, each one colder than the last. I stopped when I reached the elevator bay. Both cars were stuck on sub-level 1, basement. The panel beside them buzzed, softly still powered. Somehow, I remembered the email, avoid sub-level access. But something about that floor called. I set up camp in the administrative wing, unrolled my sleeping bag, ate a protein bar, reviewed my footage. The glitch was gone. In its place, a blank frame. Nothing. I know what I saw. I didn't sleep. Around 3:21 a.m., I heard the elevator ding. Once, slow. I got up, turned on the camera. There was no one there, but the up arrow was glowing. One car was on its way up. I backed away, hid in the stairwell, waited. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. The doors open. Empty. But the floor was wet. One single footprint. Bare. Toes pointed out, like someone had stepped forward, then vanished. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I kept the flashlight on, back against the stairwell door, camera pointed at the elevator. Nothing else happened. No more dings, no footsteps, just silence. But when I reviewed the footage around dawn, the elevator doors didn't show nothing. They showed me, standing in the hallway, blank expression, no camera in hand, just staring. I rewound, checked the timestamp. It matched the moment I was hiding behind the stairwell door. I never left my spot, but something wearing my face did. By 8:00 a.m., I decided to finish documenting the second floor, cardiology and surgical recovery, mostly dark rooms, dusty equipment, cabinets long looted, but when I passed room 241, I stopped. The door was half open. The chart hanging on the wall said, Henley, J, OBS, 72 HRs, suicide risk. There was still a wristband on the bed rail, still an IV pole, still a cracked cup with dried red at the bottom. But that's not what froze me. It was the smell. Antiseptic and bile, fresh, like someone had just thrown up on the tile and tried to clean it in a hurry. I backed away, bumping the gurney in the hall. Its wheels squealed, and from inside the room, someone whispered, "You came back." I ran, back to admin, grabbed my bag, my keys. I was done. Whatever the city wanted, they could send someone else. I didn't care about the stipend anymore. I crossed the main atrium heading for the exit, but the front doors were sealed. Not locked at seal, welded shut from the inside. They weren't like that when I came in. I circled back, tried the ER entrance, blocked with debris. Loading dock, chained. Windows, steel shuttered and bolted from behind the walls. Like the hospital had decided overnight that it wasn't letting me go. I stopped at the central map mounted in the hallway, ran my fingers over the floor plan, trying to trace a new exit path. That's when I noticed it. The red dot that said "You are here" was gone, replaced with scratched words beneath the glass. "Where do you think you are?" I tried to trace my route back anyway, but the wing I spent the night in didn't exist. No administrative offices, no records, no north wing, just an empty gap between surgery and psych. The lights above me flickered. Once, twice, then held steady. But now, the hallway stretched longer. There were more doors, ones I hadn't seen before, and the numbers didn't make sense. Room 231, room 232, room 611. I backed up, looked down both ends of the hallway. It wasn't symmetrical anymore. One side stretched like a tunnel. The other had no walls, just black. Like the building had forgotten to render that part of reality. That's when the intercom turned on. A sharp buzz, then static, then "Dr. Morgan to Recovery Bay." Repeat, Dr. Morgan. Please return to recovery. That was my name. But I'm not a doctor. I never finished med school. Never wore a white coat in this building. And yet, the voice said it like I belonged here, like I was on the schedule. I followed the hallway deeper, stupidly. No idea why. Just that something in me had to know. Recovery Bay was listed on the map as room 318. I counted the doors. Past 306, 307, 308, then nothing. Just a windowless stretch of concrete and vents. But on the floor, wheel tracks, leading to a doorway that hadn't been there before. A metal plate hung beside it, patient observation, secure. Inside was dim, one gurney, a figure lying on it, restrained by belts across chest, arms, and legs. Face covered in gauze, blood seeping through. Monitors beside it flickered, though none were plugged in. The figure shifted, turned its head toward me, and from behind the bandages, it said, "We're not discharged yet." I stumbled back into the hall, slammed the door, and ran. Didn't stop until I was back at the stairwell. But the stairs only went one way now, down. Every floor above had been removed from the directory painted on the wall, and written over it in black grease, "Don't go back up, it's worse there." I didn't want to go down, but the stairs left me no choice. Every door above me was gone. Not locked, not sealed, just gone. Flat drywall where exits used to be, like the building restructured while I blinked. I took the first step, then another. The air grew colder with each level. My flashlight dimmed, even with fresh batteries. And about 3 flights down, I noticed the silence had changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It was full, like pressure inside my skull, like a storm building behind my eyes. At the bottom was a rusted door with peeling white paint. A single word stenciled onto the metal in flaking red. "Morgue." I hesitated, pressed my ear to the metal. Nothing. But when I pulled away, I saw it. My name scratched beneath the stenciling. Over and over. Jagged handwriting, like someone had carved it into the door with broken nails. I opened it. The morgue smelled like old teeth and mildew. The light above buzzed once, then stayed dead. I scanned with my flashlight. Rows of wall drawers, all closed. Gurneys lined up, most of them empty, except the one in the center, draped in a sheet, breathing. I didn't move. It exhaled again. The sheet fluttered. My camera whined. Then the voice came. Morgan, my full name, spoken clearly, low and wet like someone trying to speak through a collapsed lung. The figure on the gurney sat up beneath the sheet slowly, stiffly, and whispered again. "You said you'd come back." I stepped back. My heel hit metal. I turned another gurney where there wasn't one before. This one held a chart clipped to the rail. Patient. Morgan. J. Time of death. 3:21 a.m. Cause. Failure to leave. The lights snapped on. Every wall drawer slowly began sliding open. One by one, Inside each, bandaged limbs, faces turned to the wall, eyes wide open, even under the gauze. A chorus of breath filled the room. Not human, not in rhythm, like the whole floor had a lung. Then the doors slammed shut at once, and a new one opened, a hallway I hadn't seen before, stretching away from the morgue. Fresh tile, clean walls, lit with soft white fluorescence. A sign hung above it. Ward B, active observation. I should have gone back, but the stairs had vanished behind me. So I walked forward. The hallway hummed quietly, lights flickering in a slow pulse. Patient rooms lined each side, glass panels frosted from the inside. I tried to look in, couldn't. Tried opening a door. It buzzed and clicked. Locked. Then one opened by itself. Room 11B. Inside was a single bed, empty. Above it, a screen flickered on, displayed a live feed of me, standing in the hallway. Then the speaker above the bed spoke. "Please return to your room, Morgan." The hallway went cold. I turned to run, but the floor beneath me shifted. Tiles curled. Lights buzzed louder. The camera feed followed me as I ran. Down the hall, past doors that were now opening on their own. Every room had a bed. Every bed had someone in it, and every one of them was me. Different states, bloody, pale, decayed, smiling. Some stared blankly, some whispered, some wept. All watched me run past, like they knew where I was headed. I reached the end of the hall. A single elevator, door open, car waiting. The panel had only one button, F4R, sublevel 2. A note was taped to the button. Discharge must be witnessed. The door began to close on its own. I stepped in. It was already moving. The elevator moved too slowly. No hum, no vibration. Just the sense of downward motion and the flicker of old fluorescent lights above. The button panel no longer had numbers. Just a blank gray plate and a keyhole. I didn't have a key. The doors opened before I could panic. Sublevel 2 smelled like antiseptic and old paper, like a filing cabinet that had been underwater. I stepped out into what looked like a surgical floor. Burned-out signage hung overhead, unreadable. Equipment lined the walls, old monitors, IV poles, wheelchairs with flat tires. A surgical gurney rolled slowly across the hallway in front of me, as if pushed by invisible hands. I followed it. It creaked around the corner and disappeared into a wide double door marked Operating Room 3B. I pushed the doors open. Cold air blasted my face. The lights were already on. The operating table in the center was clean, prepped. The restraints were unbuckled, ready to be used. A tray of tools sat beside it, spotless and gleaming, and standing behind it, a figure in scrubs, masked, cap pulled tight, not moving, just waiting. I lifted my flashlight. It didn't flicker. It just went out. The surgical lights above flared white, and the figure turned toward me. They didn't speak. They didn't have to, because the speaker crackled to life. "Dr. Morgan, please begin your procedure." I said I wasn't a doctor. The voice replied, You've already started. The figure raised a scalpel, held it toward me like an offering. I stepped back, but behind me, the doors had closed. Another figure stepped out of the corner, then another, then three more, all masked, all silent, hands gloved, eyes hidden behind old fogged goggles. They surrounded me in a slow, perfect circle. And then they opened the patient file. It was already on the tray, brown folder, yellowed label, patient, Morgan J. Status, observed, prognosis, circular. Inside were photos of me, sleeping, sitting, staring into the camcorder from angles I don't remember seeing. From times I thought I was alone. One showed me opening the morgue door. Another, lying in a hospital bed I'd never been in. And one was from today, just before I stepped into the elevator, taken from behind my shoulder. I wasn't holding the camera in that photo. I wasn't the one recording. I backed toward the door. It didn't open. The lights above the table dimmed, and one of the masked staff stepped forward, spoke without moving their mouth. "We have to remove what doesn't belong." I asked what that was. They pointed to my chest, then my head, then my face. "We have to know who came back wearing you." That's when I ran. They didn't chase. They just turned, walked back to the tray, and waited. I sprinted down the corridor. Every door I passed had my name on it. Some had voices behind them. One whispered, "Don't let them open you." Another, "They already did. You just forgot." At the end of the hallway was an old metal file cabinet. The drawers were open. Inside, wristbands, all tagged. Morgan. J. Morgan. J. Morgan. J. Different dates. Some in the future. Some impossible. I slammed the drawers shut, and behind me I heard the squeal of wheels, the gurney rolling again, but this time empty, following me, not fast, just persistent. I turned the next corner and found the stairwell. No sign, no number, just a steel door hanging open. Inside a darkness, but colder, cleaner, and on the wall, in red ink, "Observation ends below." I stepped through. The gurney stopped behind me, and the door closed on its own. The stairwell dropped for what felt like forever. No landings, no signs. Just bare concrete walls and rusted metal rails slick with moisture. My flashlight was dim, its battery draining too fast. My hand gripped the knife I found on the second floor surgical scalpel, still stained at the tip. I didn't remember taking it, but it felt right to hold it now. At the bottom was another door. No label, just steel, cold and humming like it was alive. I opened it and stepped into the dark. The room inside was massive, cathedral-like. Rows of monitors stacked from floor to ceiling, buzzing in soft green glow. Most of them were off, but some flickered, and the ones that worked showed me. Not from now, from before, from the first day I entered. From the moment I parked outside, from the elevator at 3:21 a.m., footage from angles that don't exist, corners where no camera should have been. The screens whispered as they played, audio tracks too quiet to understand, but layered with one repeating word: again, again, again. I stepped closer. The monitors in the center glitched, then synced, and together they played a loop. A bed, a hospital gown, me, restrained, eyes open, lips moving. Then something steps into frame. Not me, wearing my clothes, holding the camera. It leans down, stares at the version of me in the bed, and whispers, "We're going to do better this time." The footage skipped, then showed a hallway, admin wing. One of the monitors zoomed in, pixelated. At the far end of the corridor was a figure, face obscured, but on the wall behind them was a shadow. My shadow. Except I wasn't in the footage anymore. Just the shadow. I turned, looked behind me. My shadow didn't move, didn't follow. It was stuck bent against the wrong wall, facing the wrong way. I reached to touch it. My hand passed through, cold, empty. Wrong. The speakers above crackled again. A new voice this time. Clear. Soft. My own. You've been watched since the first breath. Not by others. By the version of you that got left behind. Every monitor in the room turned on. Thousands of me. Walking. Sitting. Bleeding. Screaming. Each on a different floor, each trapped in their own loop. The speaker hissed, "You are the last observation. You are the only one that made it far enough to remember." One final monitor dropped from the ceiling. Old CRT, crackling. It played live footage of this room from above. I was alone on the screen, until I wasn't. The door behind me opened. I turned, and the me from the loop walked in, still holding the camcorder, smiling. No eyes, no voice, just the red light of recording blinking on his shoulder. He pointed to the monitor, then to the wall beside it, where a door had appeared. Not a real door, a doorway made of blinking footage, flickering, inviting. The speaker whispered, "Finish the recording, then pick who walks out." The figure placed the camcorder at my feet. It was warm. It was humming. The red light blinked once, then twice, and the screen displayed, "Discharge file ready. Final tape." The camcorder at my feet clicked once, then played the first frame. Not on a screen, on the wall. The footage projected itself full size, becoming a doorway made of flickering images and low looping sound. I don't know why I stepped through. Maybe I thought it was my way out. Maybe part of me already knew this was the only way through. The second I crossed the frame, the cold hit me. Not weather cold, operating room cold, morgue cold. The smell of iodine and burnt hair, the buzz of fluorescent lights. I was in a hallway, except it wasn't quite real. Grainy, washed in green, like walking inside an old VHS tape. The lights above flickered in a perfect rhythm. Buzz, buzz, click. Buzz, buzz, click. Every door I passed had a date on it. Scratched, not printed. The first, 3/21 obs. The next, 3/21 redo. Then 3/21 deeper. I kept walking. Each door hummed as I passed. Each had a small window too fogged to see inside. But behind some of them, I heard whispers. My voice, repeating things I'd never said. Don't check out. Not yet. They didn't fix it right the first time. We're all still in surgery. I turned a corner. The hallway opened into a patient room. One I knew. Not because I'd been in it, but because I had dreamed about it for years. The same single bed. The same cracked TV. The same water stain on the ceiling shaped like an open mouth. And in the bed, someone sat up. Slowly. They wore my face. But younger. Sickly. Eyes too large. Skin translucent. And they smiled when they saw me. You left me here. I shook my head. I didn't understand. I was the part they couldn't cut out. He pulled back the blanket. His body was covered in gauze, labeled denial, fear, self, all with surgical lines drawn through them. You forgot the surgery, but they didn't. You walked out with the scar, but I stayed behind. I turned to run, but the door was gone. The walls stretched out, becoming corridor again. And at the ending or table, lit, prepped, empty, the monitors around it played live footage of me walking toward it. I wasn't filming anymore. The camcorder hovered beside me, blinking, recording, waiting for a final frame. The voice came again, from all sides now. Not the kid in the bed, not the speaker, my own voice. From inside the tape, this is the discharge process. One of us leaves, one of us stays. You decide, but the tape doesn't end until you do. The lights flickered violently. The hallway crumbled behind me. Reality unraveling. Only the ore remained. Only the table. The camcorder beeped once more. Its screen read, "Select file for permanent discharge." 2 thumbnails appeared. One showed me walking out the front doors of the hospital, backpack on, daylight outside. The other, me on the table, surrounded by surgeons with no faces, cutting something out of me. And I was smiling. I didn't pick either file, didn't touch the camcorder, but the room didn't wait. The thumbnails blinked once, then vanished, and the lights above me flared white. Surgical white. The kind that doesn't just light up a space it exposes. The hallway behind me folded into itself. Walls creaking inward like lungs collapsing. The ore table in front of me tilted down, restraints snapping into place with soft final clicks. It wanted me to lie down, and I did. Not because I agreed, but because something in my body had already decided. The camcorder hovered to the side, gently turning toward the surgical bay. Its red light blinked twice. Recording, I lay still. The ceiling above me was mirrored. Not polished, not clean, just enough to see that I wasn't alone. Figures stepped out from behind the light. 6 of them, all in scrubs, all wearing masks sewn into their skin. They didn't walk like doctors. They drifted. Instruments appeared without sound scalpels, rib spreaders, bone sawsaw laid out in patterns I didn't understand. And then one of them spoke, but it used my voice. "We've located the part that failed." The others nodded. Another said, "We'll remove the memory now. It's not healing. The first incision burned, but not where the blade touched skin. It burned in thought, like fire poured down the back of a memory I couldn't reach anymore. I saw flashes, a hospital hallway I never walked, a code blue called on my name, a version of me being wheeled away, limp, breathless. They opened my chest. There was no blood, only footage, rolled film, unspooled and pulsing. Black and white scenes of everything I had tried to forget. A failed surgery, a collapsed patient, a lie told to get out of the fallout. All played back on the monitors above. He watched it happen, then cut the reel before it finished. That's why it loops. They reached inside me, pulled free a strip of tape, still warm, still playing, and every second of it was me, over and over, running, hiding, saying, "I didn't mean to," but the reel never got to the end. The final frame was torn, empty, waiting. I tried to scream, but the oxygen mask wasn't connected to anything. Just a hollow rubber mouthpiece hissing silence. The surgeon leaned in close, mask stitched tight, eyes hollow, and whispered, "This is your discharge summary." Suddenly, the power surged. Lights snapped off, alarms beeped, and the monitors glitched. The reel in the surgeon's hand began to burn. Not fire, corruption. Static chewed through the edges of every second. The OR faded into darkness, but not quiet. There was a heartbeat, slow, not mine, and through it I heard the voice, again my voice, shaking. "You can't end the tape if you never let it finish." I sat up. The restraints were gone. The room was gone. Only the table remained suspended in black. The camcorder floated in front of me. Its screen flashed. Final frame ready to write, and behind it, me, the other me, watching, waiting, smiling like someone who already knew what I'd choose. He held out his hand, not for help, for the scalpel. The other me didn't speak. He didn't need to. The room spoke for him. If you could call it a room, it wasn't a place anymore, just black, stretching in every direction, stitched with the soft, wet hum of distant whispers. The camcorder hovered between us, red light blinking, waiting, recording. His hand was still out, palm up, scarred the same way mine was. But the scalpel in his grasp looked older now, more worn, like it had made this cut before. "One of us is the discharge," he finally said. "The other is the wound." I asked what that meant. He tilted his head, eyes dark. "You're not the first version of us to make it this far. Most don't even realize they're a loop. You did. That means the system needs a final frame." He stepped closer. No footsteps, just arrival. "You want to leave? You want it to be over. Then cut me. Write the ending." I almost did. The scalpel was in my hand before I realized it. But then I looked at him. and I saw it. His shadow. It moved first. Wrong, like it wasn't his. Like it was waiting for me to blink so it could swap. And suddenly I understood. He wasn't me. He was the version that stayed when I didn't. A memory left behind when I walked out of St. Augustine the first time, too scared to finish the observation. This wasn't my reflection. It was my remainder. He saw it in my eyes and smiled wider. You remember now. You know what you left here. The monitors around us, floating in the black, flared on. They played footage not of the hospital, but of my life after. Fragments I never saw. Moments I thought were mine, but behind them, always, that red light. Watching. Always the camera rolling. You weren't discharged, he said. You were borrowed. And now the file's corrupted. He reached for me. No blade this time. Just a touch. But I felt it like freezing oil pouring down my back. He was trying to take it back. The face, the name, the body. The camcorder's screen turned white. Text scrawled across it. Choose, keep, cut. I stepped back, raised the scalpel, but I didn't strike him. I turned the blade inward, not to die, to divide. I drew it across my palm. The pain was electric. The black space shuddered, and with it, so did he. The other me ripped, like film tearing off its reel, screaming with a voice I'd never let myself hear. He collapsed, shadows pulling away from his skin like old bandages. And for the first time since I entered St. Augustine, the red light turned off. I dropped the scalpel. The monitors blinked out. One remained. It showed me, only me, sitting on the ore table, breathing, alone. The camcorder's screen displayed its final message. Reality recorded. Discharge complete. Then it powered down, and everything went silent. I woke up in the parking lot. Dawn. Backpack at my feet. Car door open. No sign of damage. No camera. Just the white entry band still around my wrist. No name. Just the printed word. Survived. For a while, I thought it was over. I left the parking lot. I drove home. Ate real food. Slept in my own bed without waking to metal doors or patient codes whispered from speakers that weren't plugged in. But even in that first week, I knew something had followed. Not a person, not a thing, a perspective. I'd be walking to the store, and suddenly my vision would shift just slightly, as if I'd become the footage again. Colors would flatten, edges would grain, sound would dull, like I was living from the inside of a camcorder lens. It only lasted a second, but it always ended with a blink of red, like a light behind my eyes. I started hearing clicks, not constant, just little ones, mechanical. At first I thought it was nerves anxiety echoing from my time at the hospital. But then I started catching it on playback, phone videos, voice memos. Every single one had the same timestamp, 0:59分59秒. Every single one ended with a frame I didn't record. A hallway, empty, lit by flickering surgical lights. And in the center of each video barely visible, a shadow shaped like me. I deleted everything, smashed my phone, stopped using screens, but the shadows didn't go away. They just got closer. I started dreaming again, not of St. Augustine, of watching myself sleep from inside the room, sometimes from the ceiling, sometimes from the foot of the bed, sometimes from behind my eyes, always ending the same. You're not the one who made it out. 2 nights ago, I woke up to the sound of a camcorder rewinding, not playing, rewinding. The noise came from my closet. I didn't own a camcorder anymore, but I opened the door. Inside, a single screen, built into the wall, old, flickering. It played a loop, me, sitting in the oar again. But this time I wasn't resisting. This time I watched the surgery, smiling, murmuring notes, wearing the surgeon's coat. The real Meath patient never moved. I screamed. I punched the wall, tore the wires out. It didn't matter, because the next night, the screen was in my bathroom mirror, and this time, it wasn't footage. It was live. No, everywhere I go, I see cameras that weren't there before. Corners of rooms, back seats of ride shares, even on my own laptop. When it's off, that faint green light still flickers. Watching, waiting. And this morning, the mail came. 1 envelope. No return address. Inside was a single frame of film, cracked at the edges, and on it printed in red, "Discharge rejected." Beneath that, in black, "Patient, Morgan J. Status, looping, observation, reinstated." The camcorder is back now, sitting at the edge of my bed, recording, always recording. Its screen shows one message: tape ready, final second missing. I tried to run, but every door leads back here, back to the OR, back to the version of me I left behind. And I'm starting to understand. Maybe he wasn't the shadow. Maybe I was. I went back. There was no decision. It wasn't a choice. I just opened my door, and St. Augustine was there where my hallway should have been. Same cracked concrete. Same fading sign. St. Augustine Regional Care. Except this time, the letters weren't rusted. They were clean, fresh, waiting. The camcorder was already in my hand. I don't remember picking it up. I don't remember grabbing anything. Just walking through the front doors. They opened by themselves. No code, no resistance. Like they were expecting me. Inside, the hospital was lit. Every hallway bright. Every corridor humming softly with fluorescent buzz. No mold, no dust. Just polished tile and paperwork waiting on the nurse's station. I passed room 241. The door was open. Inside, a bed. Made. Chart clipped to the wall. Patient. Morgan. J. Room. Orthria. Status. Final observation. I didn't fight it. Not anymore. I walked the route like I'd done it before because I had. Maybe in another loop. maybe in another version of myself. Maybe this was just the real spooling again. The OR was cold, always cold. The table was empty, restraints open, but only one chair sat beside it now. Not for a surgeon, for a viewer. A screen blinked on above the table. The camcorder in my hand powered up on its own. The screen displayed one prompt, final second, ready to play. I sat and I hit play. The footage started like any other. The oar, me on the table, breathing hard, eyes wild. Then, still, the door opened. Another me walked in. Surgical coat, comb, held the scalpel. He approached. He didn't speak, just leaned close and whispered one line. "This is where you become real." Then he lifted the scalpel, and instead of cutting me open, he turned it around, placed it in my hand, stepped back, smiled, and I cut him. The screen glitched. The footage repeated, again and again. Each time, a different cut, a deeper wound, a longer pause, until one version didn't stop. The me in the footage turned to the camera, stared directly at me, watching, and said, "If you're seeing this, you made the wrong choice." The camera fell, the footage turned black, and the screen went blank. Text appeared, "End not saved, patient still recording." Behind me, the lights in the oar dim, the door sealed, monitors flared on. Not footage this time, live feed, every angle, every view, me in the chair, alone, watching myself be watched. And from the speaker above, you didn't watch the second watched you, and now it knows how you end. The camcorder beeped, the red light blinked, a new message on its screen, transfer complete, discharge permanent, and then it powered down, for real, dead. The OR lights cut out. I opened my eyes. I was in the parking lot, alone, daylight, no doors behind me, no hospital, only the scalpel in my hand, and a tag around my wrist, file closed. But I know it isn't, because now, everywhere I go, things shift. Shadows don't follow right. Footsteps echo with delay. And sometimes I see the red light, not from a camera I carry, but from one waiting ahead of me.